Our last speaker is Kenneth Hallenbeck from Reimagine Science. So can you introduce yourself and share your research with us, Kenneth?
Yeah, absolutely. I am excited to talk to you all today. Hard acts to follow, and actually I'm indebted to Cheryl for just going ahead and giving my introduction for me. Thank you. I'll have to do a lot less explaining of what gamification is. But let me introduce myself. I'm Ken Hallenbeck. So I got my PhD at UCSF, and now I work at Genentech in South San Francisco. I'm a lab-based researcher, so I spend my time in lab trying to do early drug discovery research, or I shouldn't say trying. I do early drug discovery research. And so that's my day job. But when I'm not doing that, I'm really excited about different ways to address the kind of larger cultural challenges that science faces both in society and within the scientific research culture. And so I've been working on some gamification, which you already all know what that is. So I'll just get straight into it. And again, as I've been saying, Cheryl did a great job explaining things, but having hands-on experience that's fun is really important to making labs seem less scary. So if you are a science student and you don't know what you're doing, actually getting your hands on a game, or, this is why we have lab-based courses as well. Basically everything we've been talking about, just making it fun, making it interesting. If we can connect that experience with role models that students connect with. So role models that look like you or that are from a culture you're from. These two things combined can make you seriously consider a STEM career, right? So if we wanted more Black scientists, having more Black scientists in the lab for students to see actually might be one of the tools. Well, it is one of the tools we need. Unfortunately, it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Where if a student doesn't see a role model or doesn't have a fun experience, then they might not choose a career outcome like this. And this is a problem that I've been thinking about a lot, right? Like, I grew up in an incredibly well-positioned situation from a scientific education point of view, right? But a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have access to fun, engaging scientific education. And frankly, if you're interested in science, you're likely to meet a scientist who looks a lot like me. And that's not an accident. That's because that's what most scientists look like if you just took an average scientist in America today. So how do we address this fundamental challenge? It's not like the future has to be this way. And that's where I get really excited about the power of virtual worlds. So how does gamification fit into this? Cheryl just talked about it, and there's literally the same exact definition that she gave you. Hello, welcome. I'm back. I'll pick up here. I guess I had some stuff covering the top of my slides. So, my slides are beautiful and I want you to see them. So we fixed that. So I'm going to briefly get into the gamification because I've done something a little bit non-traditional here. Where what Cheryl was talking about is the standard form of gamification. So you take like lab research or your typical educational content, and you just add some elements of gamification. So like you can earn points and like maybe accomplish something, like you can cash those points in at the end of the semester. Or you could perhaps tell a story. And this is exactly what we were just talking about with the dating game, right? Is like, okay, like which of these different Neanderthal, Homo erectus, like who is it? They all have different parts of it, and that engages a different part of our brain. You can also do things like have achievements, like who had the best meme? We all voted on it, right? So these are all things that you've seen so far today. And what I've done is I've basically taken this and ramped it all the way up to 100 and made an actual video game where it's more like the labification of a digital game than it is the gamification of an actual lab. And there are a bunch of reasons why I think this is powerful. One, it's pretty orthogonal. Like you're not gonna just play a video game instead of go to school. So it's an additional tool rather than trying to replace the current content. I'm not a teacher, I'm a researcher. So I don't wanna replace the teachers. I also think there's a lot of things the virtual world allows us to do that reality we're constrained by, right? we're on a Zoom call right now, so that's one example. Access, right? So, you know, we didn't all have to fly to the same place to listen to these talks, which is super powerful, right? Like, I'm going to go have lunch in my kitchen in 25 minutes. That means lots more people can access the same information. And that's a really powerful tool. Second is scalability. Real world lab space is always going to be limited. Like, if you're at a small school, high school or middle school, you probably don't even have a lab. And getting a student into a lab and getting them excited about research so that they'll consider a career can be challenging. But a virtual lab has no limits. You know, if you have a computer, you have a phone, you can get into lab. And then lastly, I've hinted at this, but this is really where like my core interest lies, is we can, in a virtual world, short circuit the problem of representation by just creating the world we want our students to be living in the future, so they can experience it today. Like, they can go into lab and representation rates can be appropriate because like we decide in a virtual world what the rules are. And that is, I think, an extremely powerful tool. And lastly, I'm also excited about the collateral benefits of just normalizing science and the research process as fun and creative and human and something that we all can do and maybe all are doing at home, right? It's the scientific method is not scary. It's just something that humans do. It's how we ended up with candlelit dinners because we wanted the roast fish, right? I mean, this is all something that we can connect people to. So without any more to do, I actually want to show you the game that we've made. And so there may not be sound, but go ahead and watch this trailer. Awesome. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. This has been a year-long process for me. I'm a development and a design team of one, so it's definitely a passion project. But what I've tried to make here is the concept of a science game that's fun, that might be an educational tool as well. So it's maybe 5% of the way to something that would be used as a final product. But we want to inform the design. And the reason kind of I'm going public about it now before I go any further is, as I said, I'm not a teacher, and I really do want to inform the design of this game so that it would be useful to the people who should be using it. So we're part-time and we're having a lot of fun. We hope that you'll reach out to us, and I'll tell you how to contact us at the end. I'm also actually going to let you play it right now. Well, not right now because I'm still talking, but if you go to terraprime.org/research-rush, you can actually play that demo that I just showed you. And it might take a few minutes to load, and we recommend Chrome. And if you can't figure it out, email us. But you can actually go and play what we have. It's a concept game. And what I'm hoping it'll do is allow us to spark the imagination of our potential partners, people who might want to be working with us. And the reason I want to do that is kind of because I think it could go all kinds of places, right? I think we could actually walk students through lab experiments in a world like this, have them design their own lab experiments, build in content, or make it customizable to your lab course where you want to do something in real life lab, but then actually go do an experiment that you don't have the funding for or the instruments for in the digital lab, right? And this kind of back and forth, connecting the real and the virtual, I think that's the future, and how to get there is something I'm very interested in. And of course, there's always just like the let's play a game and have fun to inspire our students. That is probably where we'll start. And then the last thing I want to mention before I kind of wrap up is something that Cheryl hinted at, which is that a lot of research into gamification hasn't been as conclusive as you might think. A lot of studies that show gamification in educational contexts are either too small, or they're not designed properly, or they just don't yield the result you might expect. And so I've been thinking, like, intuitively, even in this session today, you can already see that like it makes sense that games would be helpful educational tools. Can we definitively show that? And can I design my game so that it is the ultimate tool for showing that, right? And so basically where I am today is I'm like 5% of the way through game design. I haven't done any thinking about how to design a research study using this, like A/B testing or anything like that. So what I want to start doing is take this 5% of the curve and start bending it, right? So start actually talking to educational researchers, which is why I'm here, so please reach out. Start talking to people throughout the course of this year to build in elements that will be useful for students, useful for teachers, and useful for researchers. And then ultimately actually start to run those studies alongside the game design. So we could do like a small scale pilot, kind of like we would do a clinical trial in therapeutic discovery, right? Where we run phase 1 to make sure that like the drug doesn't kill you, right? We like make sure the game is actually fun before we roll it out to a whole class or something like that, right? And then ultimately, I really want to actually analyze these data, publish them, and have an impact on the overall field of research and lab and education and gamification. And so that's where we're headed. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate the time. Sorry for the technical hiccup in the middle. If this is something you're excited about, please reach out to me. I'm at info@terraprime.org, or just you can follow us on Twitter. And I've finally put the password here. So if you've gone to that site, you've noticed you can't get in yet. So if you do want to actually play this build, please go to research-rush and just use the ExpBio 2021 password to get in. And send us your thoughts. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much, and I'll take any questions from the other speakers or anyone who's listening. Thank you.